Welcome to the beginning of the year Payroll Services Training Session. This presentation is designed to identify high-level processes during the start of the year and to ensure all employees are set up correctly in the appropriate payroll area and sub-area, have the proper deductions, and are paid correctly to ensure our first paycheck for the new year. The contact information for payroll services is important if you need to fax or mail information for processing. There are more detailed payroll documents and step-by-step processes posted on the payroll website for viewing convenience. The items listed on the next two slides will be addressed during this presentation. The topics include the master pay calendar, payroll calendars, both the front and the back, direct deposit authorization, how to compensate 10-month employees who work before their start date, how to prevent overpayments throughout the year, how to ensure employees are set up in the correct work site, and important dates to ensure a first paycheck for the new year. I will explain the steps to validate the check register prior to payday, how to help employees verify the correct payroll status appears on their pay stub. I will also discuss several deferred payment options for all employees, review helpful information on the payroll website, discuss online payroll functions available through employee self-service, the mandatory 3% Florida Retirement System deduction that appears on all payments received, and the new payroll sense and payroll newsletters. We will also address how to monitor leave requests now entered through self-service, and where to find training material for all the documents discussed. This is the master pay calendar that is to be referenced when determining which payroll areas to process, and the payroll cutoff dates. It's important to notice that this reference is subject to change based on various circumstances. The grayed areas are cutoff dates that are typically different than the normal Wednesdays. The most updated master payroll calendar is posted on the payroll website on the Payroll Preparers page. This is the payroll calendar for Payroll Area 81. Notice the attendance periods and pay dates, and the number of days in which these employees are paid. Please remember that during the summer months, there's a select group of employees that work 10-hour days. This is the back of the payroll calendar for the same group of employees. And the way to read the back of the calendar, if you look at the top of the calendar, July 1st is indicated on the left-hand side, and then the number 1 in the same box indicates that it's the first day of their contract. Direct deposit is a condition of employment and requires all employees to have their wages directly deposited into the bank of their choice, instead of receiving a printed paycheck. Typically, new employees submit the direct deposit authorization form during PREO, or pre-employment orientation. All others would submit a new form if they have changed or closed their bank accounts. If this form is not submitted, it will take approximately 5 business days to replace a check. If the account was never set up or the employee has submitted an emergency stop request, the employee's check will be held in payroll services until the appropriate paperwork is received. This is a sample of the direct deposit authorization form that can be found on the payroll website under the Forms link. If the employees are changing or closing their accounts, they must notify payroll services approximately 2 weeks before their next payday before their old account is inactivated. If depositing into a checking account, a voided check must be attached for the account verification. And if depositing into a savings account, a letter must be attached from the bank containing the account number and routing number for account verification. Original signatures are required and faxes will not be accepted. And this is to protect the employee's privacy. All direct deposit forms must be submitted to payroll services by the close of business on Friday, August 15th, 2014, to ensure processing for the first check dated August 27th. If the deadline is missed and payroll services has the appropriate information on the Friday prior to the check date, the actual check will be held in payroll services for pickup or will be mailed to the home address on file. If the paperwork has not been submitted, the check will be held in payroll services until the appropriate paperwork is received. The only exception to this process is the first check of the new year. These checks will be mailed to their home address on file. This process pertains to employees working before their SAP start date. There are 2 types of situations, those that are active in SAP and those that are new, previously termed, or those that have changed from a 12-month to a 10-month position. In the event that they are active in SAP, enter attendance entries with the appropriate cost center for all hours worked. If they are new, previously termed, or those that have changed from a 12-month to a 10-month position, and an employment payment request form is required to compensate those employees for all hours worked prior to their start date. Please remind those employees that this payment will not appear until their first regularly scheduled check. This is a sample of the employment payment request form. This form can be found on the Payroll website. Instructions appear at the top of the form. Remember that this form is initiated by the worksite, sent to the area superintendent for approval, then to budget for a funding source, and then to payroll for processing. It's never recommended that employees work before their start date. All employees must have cleared drug testing and fingerprinting before working on OCPS property. The next section involves steps to prevent overpayments. The most common group of overpaid employees are those that were on a long-term leave of absence the prior year and were scheduled to return and didn't. The easiest way to prevent those types of overpayments is to review the employees that were on a long-term leave, and if they didn't return this year or returned late, update all SAP absence entries by entering personal leave without pay. This is also common for termed employees. In these situations, the paperwork might have been submitted to term the employee, however, he or she is still showing active in SAP. In this case, you would also enter personal leave without pay from the beginning of their contract to the end of the school year. This will prevent the employee from being overpaid until the termination is processed. In addition, there's a misconception that employees on a temporary contract automatically stop getting paid because there is an end date on the form that is submitted to Employment Services. These employees will continue to get paid unless unpaid time is entered on the first day after the end date of their contract. The Staffing Position Report is a helpful tool to determine who is assigned to your work location. Documentation for most payroll processes can be found on the Payroll website under the Payroll Preparers link. It is important to verify that employees are set up at the correct work location. The location of employees may change if an employee is new, transferred, or is terminated. The Staffing Position Report is a helpful tool to determine who is assigned to your work location. If employees do not appear on the report, they are not assigned to the organizational unit entered. If an employee should appear on the report and does not, contact the employment coordinator for your worksite. This could mean that the transfer or action has not yet been complete. Documentation, again, to most payroll processes can be found on the Payroll website under the Payroll Preparers link. The critical deadline to notify your employment coordinator of personnel actions to ensure a first paycheck is July 24, 2014. Notification for personnel actions received after July 24th will continue to be processed as rapidly as possible. However, a first check cannot be guaranteed if notification is received after that date. The first paychecks of the new school year are processed in payroll beginning on August 21st. The first paychecks of the new school year are dated August 27th, September 3rd, and September 10th. New candidates must have the following items completed to ensure a first paycheck: a completed profile and selection in e-recruiting, the completion of employment paperwork packet at PRIO, successful drug testing and fingerprinting results, certification and HR approval for instructional, and HR approval if classified or hourly. If a candidate is being reappointed, all certification requirements must be met to ensure a first paycheck. The status of all new candidates should be monitored in e-recruiting. Running your staffing report, which is transaction ZH028, with a key date of 8/19/2014, to monitor the status of all staff members in SAP. If you need assistance, contact the appropriate Employment Services Coordinator or Staffing Manager at 407-317-3215. It is the worksite's responsibility to review and verify the check register for the first and second payrolls of the new year. Access the Payroll Preparers link on the Payroll website to view the paycheck registers and directions to print the paycheck register. This must be completed on the Friday prior to the first and second payrolls of the new year. Those dates are August 2nd, August 29th, and September 5th, and that's for transportation only. These links will be updated on the Friday before those payrolls are posted. Once the documentation is printed, you can see the payment method column indicates the manner in which the payment will be dispersed. C indicates check and T indicates direct deposit. If an employee is receiving a check and has not submitted the appropriate direct deposit paperwork to payroll services, the check will be held in payroll until the paperwork is received. The employee must be notified by the work location. Remember, the only exception to this process is the first check of the new year. These checks will be mailed to the home address on file. The last page of the check register must be signed by an administrator once it has been reviewed, verified, and corrected. The signed check register must be emailed to payroll services and your employment coordinator before the close of business on the Friday in which it was received for all changes or corrections. This is the Friday before payday. If the check register is accurate, email the appropriate payroll representative and indicate no changes to the check register for the check dated and list the check date. Please remind employees to verify their payroll status in the upper portion of their pay stub. This will help them determine if their payroll status is correct. This determines the number of days and hours in which they work. This information will also be included in the August 2014 Payroll Sends newsletter. There are 3 types of deferred payment options. The OCPS deferred payment option is for instructional employees only. The other 2 are offered by the Central Florida Educators Federal Credit Union. Those are the Summer Share Savings Account and the Term Share Certificate. There are benefits to each plan, and the next few slides explain. The OCPS instructional deferred payment option is offered by the district and does not accrue interest. Teachers listed in the following categories must submit the Deferred Non-Deferred Request 1415 form to ensure enrollment in the deferred payment option. Teachers termed due to a change in work location, teachers on temporary contract, teachers that are returning to OCPS, or those returning from a long-term leave of absence. All other teachers who are new or want to change their current status must submit the Deferred Non-Deferred Request form to ensure enrollment in the deferred payment option. This form must be submitted to payroll services by the close of business on August 15th, 2014 to be effective on the first check of the new year. The deferred payout is a net check. No deductions will be taken. And remember, garnishments will not be deducted from the deferred paycheck. Employees are responsible for complying with all court-ordered obligations that are not deducted from their paychecks and must remit all payments during the summer months to the appropriate garnishing agency. This is a sample of the deferred, non-deferred form that can be found on the payroll website. Teachers will receive the first paycheck for the contractual 2014-15 school year on August 27, 2014. It is the employee's responsibility to review each paycheck to ensure the deferred payment has been deducted throughout the fiscal year. The deductions will appear under the column titled Detail of Miscellaneous Deductions. The system calculates the deferred deduction based on the full period pay for each paycheck. The Central Florida Educators Federal Credit Union offers a Summer Share Savings Account and a Term Share Certificate account for all benefited employees. The Summer Share Savings Account earns an interest at a rate of 0.25%, which is subject to change based on the federal rate. Interest is compounded daily from the date of the deposit and is added to the account on the last day of each month. And the deduction remains active all year for 12-month employees and is active only during the school year for 10-month employees. The funds are available at any time, and there is no penalty for withdrawing monies deposited. The Term Share Certificate is a 10-month account which earns interest at a rate of 0.50%. Interest is compounded and added to the account monthly. The funds are restricted until the Term Share Certificate reaches the date of maturity. There is a penalty equal to 90 days of interest if the funds are withdrawn prior to the date of maturity. The date of maturity is the same for all employees and is determined by OCPS. The date changes every year. The date of maturity for the 14-15 school year is July 1, 2015. There will be 20 payroll deductions throughout the school year, and this is on the same schedule as the insurance deductions. Funds will not be deducted during the summer months, and the account remains open from one year to another unless the employee terminates the deductions through OCPS. The Term Share Certificate will be deactivated during the summer and reactivated at the return of the new school year. If an employee is a current member of the credit union, a Central Florida Educators Federal Credit Union payroll deduction form must be completed with the appropriate biweekly dollar amount to be deducted and deposited into the desired account. This form can be located in Payroll Services, at the nearest Central Florida Educators Federal Credit Union branch, or on the payroll website. The employee must be the primary account holder. If an employee is not a member of the Central Florida Educators Federal Credit Union, they must do the following: complete an application for membership located at the nearest branch, and open a savings account with a minimum deposit of $5. Open the certificate or summer savings and complete a payroll deduction form at the branch. A driver's license and Social Security card are required for identification. A Central Florida Educators Federal Credit Union payroll deduction form must be completed with the appropriate biweekly dollar amount to be deducted and deposited into the desired account. The form can be located in Payroll Services, at the nearest Central Florida Educators branch, or on the payroll website. And remember, the employee must be the primary account holder. If an employee currently has a payroll deduction with the credit union, the amount on the card must include the deferred deduction and any active credit union deductions previously authorized. This authorization will override any previous payroll deductions authorized with Central Florida Educators Federal Credit Union. The payroll website has a variety of information for employees that process payroll. If you have a question, our website has the answer. This is a great resource for you and our employees. Please refer employees to the website for detailed information pertaining to payroll. There are several online payroll functions available through employee self-service. Those items are a salary statement or pay stub, the tax withholding certificate or W-4. This is the form employees complete to determine the amount of tax withheld from each paycheck. Employees must have an original tax withholding certificate on file to have the ability to enter or update information online. They also have the ability to edit or update their 403B or 457 tax shelter annuity deductions online as well. Employees enter short-term leave requests online. There is no need for the old paper copy of the Certificate of Absence or COA. It has been revised to include only long-term options. Remember, all processes not available through employee self-service remain the same, such as requesting a long-term leave of absence. Employees also have the ability to view their leave requested and their real-time leave balances. Senate Bill 2100 requires a mandatory 3% Florida Retirement System employee contribution on all gross compensation effective July 1, 2011. Gross wages are reduced by the amount of the pre-tax contribution before federal income tax is calculated. The deduction will appear under the detail of miscellaneous deductions on all payments received after July 1, 2011. The text will vary depending on the retirement plan for each employee. This will be communicated in the August edition of the Payroll Sense newsletter distributed to all employees. Payroll Sense is the payroll newsletter that communicates topics to all employees that are relative to that time of year. Please post them at your worksite to help alleviate questions pertaining to payroll. There are some occasions that there might be 2 issues for a given month, depending on the volume of information that is critical for that time of year. These publications will be posted on the payroll website. Payroll News is the payroll newsletter that communicates topics for payroll preparers only. These topics are relative to that time of year. This will be the only method of communication regarding critical payroll information that you need to know to ensure everyone at your site is paid correctly. There might be occasions that there will not be an issue published for a given month, and there are other occasions that there might be 2 issues for a given month, depending on the volume of information that is, again, critical for that time of year. If you do not receive the newsletter and are responsible for payroll or the backup for payroll, please email Pam Torme and request to be added to the Payroll Preparers distribution list. I can't stress this enough, the importance of reading and applying each section of this newsletter immediately when it is received. There could be serious financial consequences if not following certain processes during this time of year. These publications will be posted on the Payroll Preparers page of the payroll website. There are several tools that have been designed to help you monitor leave requests. The first step to the success of the online leave request is to ensure your organizational structure is correct. your supervisor has access to a tab within self-service titled OCPS Apps. That is where he or she will go to drag and drop the appropriate staff under the supervisor in which they report. It's important that this step must be completed first. You can also generate the position/supervisor org structure validation report in SAP by accessing transaction ZH031. This report will display the current organizational structure and the chief or supervisor at each level. If you identify a change, your supervisor would need to access the OCPS Apps tab within Self-Service and drag and drop the appropriate staff accordingly. Remember to scroll to the bottom and save your changes. There are 3 SAP reports that have been designed to help monitor leave requests and the status of those requests. The first report, ZP100, can be generated by calendar view or by date range. The expectation is that all employees will enter their own short-term leave request online. However, we do know that there are certain circumstances when employees are out of paid leave, and unpaid time must be entered in SAP to prevent an overpayment. That process remains in place and must continue. If you find yourself having to enter unpaid time for an employee, you must generate ZP100 for the date range that you entered. The record that you entered will be highlighted in yellow. You must click the personnel number of the record that you entered and have the employee and supervisor sign the form that displays. This is the employee's authorization for you to complete the entry on his or her behalf. This form must be filed with all payroll records and retained at the worksite. There are several different statuses that will appear on the absence report. Sent means the employee has submitted the leave request for approval. Approved means the supervisor has approved the request. Posted means the background job has generated and the leave has posted in SAP. And the employee's leave balance has been reduced. PA30 add means someone other than the employee has entered the leave directly in SAP. Rejected, the supervisor has rejected the leave request. Deleted means the employee has deleted the leave request. And it's important to know that deleted leave requests still route back to the supervisor for approval before the employee's leave balance is replenished. ZP101, or the Graphical Attendance Overview Report, displays the percentage of staff present and absent for the organizational units entered. ZP103, or the SAP-generated timesheet, should only be used as a reconciliation tool to ensure the time verification record or timesheet for all employees is always accurate. Remember, employees can submit changes to their leave request up to 1 month in the past and 6 months in the future. It's always important to have the employee update their timesheet if they submit a change to their leave request. This will ensure all payroll records are always accurate. All SAP training material for the new reports can be accessed by entering the transaction in SAP and then following the Help OCPS Help menu path. This will display the document library, and you can select the training document to view. Training material for entering, deleting, or changing payroll can be found on the Payroll Preparers page of the Payroll website. The first page of each section outlines important material before you begin. There are also video recordings for the new SAP reports to monitor leave requests. All training material for self-service can be found within self-service on the Help tab for each section or on the same page of the function that's being performed. Remember, there are quick reference guides, videos, and long printed material. All documentation have the same material. You can access the document that best suits your learning style. This is an example of the training material that's available on the Help tab of the home page of self-service. These functions are performed from the Home tab, and that is why they're located in this area. This is an example of the training material that can be found on the Working Time tab of Employee Self-Service. This also includes the updated school board policies and the new Management Directive A14 that supports this online initiative. Employees also have access to the OSPA and CTA contracts to help them understand how they can use the leave balances they earn. They will use this information to help them enter their leave request, monitor the status of those requests, and view their real-time leave balances. Thank you for viewing the beginning of the year payroll services presentation. If you have any questions regarding the information that was covered, contact the payroll representative for your work location. Remember, there are more detailed payroll documents, FAQs, and other helpful information posted on the payroll website and within self-service. Have a great year, and remember that we are always here to serve you.